Welcome to the Nomad Summit podcast, and in this episode I'm speaking with hospitality entrepreneur and Instagram superstar Jake Snow. Jake and his wife Marie started out traveling the world, creating content and sharing their lives online. 10 years later, they built an audience of 1.6 million followers and moved from promoting beautiful hotels to building their own. But their breakthrough didn't happen overnight.
You got to deliver value to a lot of people, and that value you have to really understand what it is.
Jake says the real secret is persistence.
It wasn't really what you did, it was that you just stayed in the game that long.
That persistence eventually turned an online following into a serious business when Jake and Marie launched their first digital product.
And that just really took off. It went crazy for us. We launched it and we made 20,000 euros in the first day.
Today, Jake and Marie are developing boutique hotels in Bali and South Africa while working with a global team of around 250 people. But moving from travel content to construction and hospitality was anything but easy.
It was blood, sweat and tears, literally. We learned so many lessons the hard way.
We'll talk about building an audience from scratch, turning attention into business, designing hotels for the social media age, and the opportunities and challenges of managing teams across borders and cultures. So how do you go from backpacking through Southeast Asia to building a global hospitality business? Let's find out. My name is Palle Bo, and this is the Nomad Summit podcast, episode 62, how a digital nomad built 1.6 million followers and 7 hotels.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi, Jake.
Hi, Palle. How are you?
I'm very good. So you've been traveling around a lot, and we're going to get into all of that, but you kind of fell in love with Mallorca. Why?
Mallorca is a very special place. My wife and I lived a long time in Bali, and we love Bali as well for many different reasons. But as we got a bit older and had a child, we started to prioritize comfort a little more, convenience a little more, and we found that Mallorca...
Less traffic?
Yeah, less traffic, less attacks on the nerve system. So Mallorca felt like it had the energy of Bali in some ways. Mm-hmm. Beautiful nature, beautiful, friendly people, weather fantastic, but a little more comfortable, little cleaner, little less adventurous. At this point in our lives, that's more of what we're looking for. And so we still do go back to Bali occasionally. But Mallorca just kind of ticked so many boxes. The Palma city is such a beautiful metropolitan, old, beautiful city. And then you've got the beach right next door. And so we live here in the city in Palma, close to lots of restaurants, cafes, gyms, wellness, all these things. So, Mallorca just ticks all the boxes.
And for the people who don't know, Mallorca is a part of Spain, but it's in the Mediterranean and I guess close-ish to Barcelona. So in that area, in that part of the Mediterranean. And I'm from Denmark. It's one of those places that we go to all the time when we do the first outside of Denmark trips. It's Mallorca or Costa del Sol or Italy or something like that. But you're Australian, so I guess that would be Bali for you.
Exactly. And my wife is German, and there are certainly a lot of Germans traveling here as well. So we started off together in Bali. That was my tourist destination that everyone goes to from Australia. And then we ended up in the German tourist destination where my wife's family visits us quite a lot, as well as her friends are coming to Mallorca. It's a 2-hour flight. And so a lot of Marie's friends and family are visiting us, just leaving on a Thursday night, having a long weekend, flying back on the Sunday and then back to work on Monday. And it's such a nice break for them, and it's just so convenient. The flights are really cheap.
Really cheap, yeah.
You can get return flights for 150 euros if you get onto it early, come with a carry-on. Yeah, we really enjoy it here.
Mm-hmm. So did you and Marie meet in Bali?
Actually, we met in Thailand, in Koh Tao.
Oh, wow. Yeah. going scuba diving, I guess.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, to be honest. I was diving there at the time, diving and drinking beers, a lot of them.
As a good Australian should do.
Yeah, exactly. So it was me and two of my mates, and my wife was there also backpacking through Southeast Asia. And we met on the beach there in Koh Tao and fell in love pretty quickly. I followed her to Koh Phangan, and then my trip was supposed to go to Cambodia with my mates. Her trip was going to Vietnam. And I think after 4 or 5 days of having this romance, I got on the ferry to go to the airport to go to Cambodia. And as soon as I got on the ferry, I was just thinking, why am I leaving this woman? I think I'm in love. I don't know what this feeling is. And I said to my friends, as soon as we land in Cambodia, I'm taking the first bus to Vietnam. So I changed my entire trip to follow her around, and it ended up paying off. Here we are 10 years later with a 1-year-old son.
Yeah, and one more on the way?
One more on the way, yeah, due in November.
Wow, yeah. Have you spent many years traveling, or was that just a vacation?
From that trip, we were together for 3 weeks in Southeast Asia. At the time, my wife had just quit her job and she was about to start her master degree in Barcelona. And I was working in Australia at a winery and playing football. I had a contract playing football.
What kind of football?
Australian football.
Okay, so much more rough, not the FIFA kind.
No, very rough. Yeah, a lot of injuries and not so much diving for penalties. More of the opposite, actually. Continuing to play even with a dislocated shoulder or something like that. But I quit that because after this 3 weeks with Marie, I was just head over heels in love. I'd never had a real girlfriend before. And I just knew that this was something special. And so my wife, or let's say romantic holiday love at that time, after 3 weeks of being together, we said, hey, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I'm quitting football. Marie said, I'm quitting my master. At the time, she had about 15,000 euros in her bank. I had about 8. And we put it together and we said, let's meet in LA, because I had a football contract to play in LA just for a month for a team there. She met me there, and then we put our money together. We traveled down to Mexico, Costa Rica, Colombia, Ecuador, and basically we're traveling until our money ran out. And then she came back to Australia with me, and we worked at the winery. We did a wine season, working night shifts, saving up our money. We bought a van. And I was a carpenter when I was quite young. I did half a trade apprenticeship. So I pulled out the back of this van, rebuilt it, and then we did a van road trip up the east coast of Australia for 8 weeks. And that was when we started creating content. I bought a drone and started taking some photos, and Marie's friends and family were really interested in what she was doing because she'd just given up everything for this Australian guy. And so we just started sharing what we were doing. And that was the beginning of our Instagram taking off. And, a couple years later, we were full-time traveling all around the world, working with the biggest name hotels. I think we went to 50 countries together in 2 or 3 years, and we were perpetually traveling. And Bali was the base, but we were doing, 25 countries a year and making all of our income then online.
Wow.
And you started with an e-commerce business, which did very well. And then we took the money that we'd made there and invested in Bali, built 2 boutique hotels, and then a spa.
Whoa. Pause. I got so many questions before we get to the hotel part. So you say that you built your Instagram, and you can say that you've got 1.6 million followers on the personal Instagram account, and you got it's like 50,000 on your business account. But the 1.6 million, I'm sure some people are struggling to get to 5,000. How in the world did you do that? Apart from its fantastic high quality pictures and stunning location, you and Marie, you're both annoyingly beautiful, and your son is super cute, and everything looks like the perfect dream life. Is that the trick to building a following like that?
Well, thank you. You're making me blush. That's very nice of you to say. we are just normal people. That's the truth.
Really?
Most influencers, as much as they want to walk around like they're celebrities, they're just taking photos and videos of themselves, and it's not that special. But to kind of go back, 2016 was when we met. At the time, I had a GoPro, and I really enjoyed making little GoPro videos. And at the time, used them for nothing. Just made them, and then they just sat in a folder on my laptop, because it just wasn't really a thing back then. Like, social media was just starting to really take off, and at the time, I also was a bit nervous to share it. I created it, but I didn't really want to share it. And then when I met my wife, she started sharing photos of our trip on social media. And I was still, being the Australian football player, quite shy. And a lot of my mates really let me know about it a lot. It was my love for her that actually I said, you know what, screw it. Okay, put me in the photos, do whatever. I don't care. I'm not embarrassed anymore. But it was really, there was one moment that it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me, because we must have had 3,000 followers or something at the time. Marie and I had gone through Southeast Asia. I'm making these little GoPro videos. We're taking photos together, sharing it as a bit of a hobby that we just enjoyed. And then when we built the van, I took Marie up to, in the Barossa Valley in South Australia, where I'm from. For her birthday, I planned this romantic picnic, and I drove her up to the top of the hill in the area for this beautiful sunset. I put little fairy lights in the van, and I made her a cake, and I took a photo of her in the van with the fairy lights, with the sunset. And that photo ended up getting something like 5,000 likes and a few hundred comments. And at the time, we had 3,000 followers. So I was just kind of like, whoa, this is viral. And the light bulb kind of went off for me, because I just realized how many people that was that were interested in this, van build out that I had done.
Yeah.
And then I kind of thought to myself, imagine if I had a product that these people would be interested in. I could have a business from this. And that light bulb moment then kind of committed me, because my wife was really enjoying it. And I was kind of like, oh, come on, let's just live our lives. But then I was like, okay, let's take this seriously. Let's actually go for this and see if we can build it. There were a few people online at that time, some of the trailblazers who were travel influencers. No one really knew how they made money or how they were being sponsored to do all of these trips, but it looked amazing. And so I thought, if they're doing it, maybe we can do it. And we'd saved up another, let's say, 15,000 euros for our next trip. I said to my wife, if we're going to do it serious, then I need a new camera, I need a drone, and I need all of this equipment. And so we'd invested in all of that equipment. And then I thought, yeah, I should probably commit to this now, because I've just spent $5,000 on all of it. And that 8-week trip that we did, we started flying the drone around everywhere, creating this content. The likes were getting more and more. We started to get more engagement. People started asking us questions about the road trip that we did. What would we recommend? We were talking also a bit about our relationship at that time, because people were really interested in how a German girl and Australian guy were going to make it work. It was kind of like a steady growth until we went to the Philippines. And so we'd worked our way up from 3,000 up to around 30,000 followers, made zero money from it at this time. We did have a couple of hotel collaborations in the early days. They sent a message to our inbox.
Oh, you didn't reach out to them?
No, in the beginning, the first ever hotel collab we had was a hotel in Koh Samui that reached out to us, Tango Lux. I will never forget it. And it had heated toilet seats. And Marie and I were just like, wow, this is crazy. And we spent 3 days there. They paid for our dinners and the accommodation, everything was for free. Marie and I shot a bunch of photos. We promoted them on our page. And, we were just like, how amazing is this? For taking photos, we get to stay at this hotel for free. This is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then the next night when we left, we went back to a €9 a night budget hostel, and we were back to reality, basically. But it was, those moments in the beginning that kind of we thought that this could be something. And then Marie and I are very analytical people. And so we were very data driven, and we could see if something worked, okay, let's double down on that. So if it's a photo of Marie and I, Marie in a beautiful dress, me, holding her up or doing something, we said, okay, that worked. Let's do that again. And then bit by bit it grew. And then we did a trip to the Philippines, and we created some incredible content at some waterfalls in the Philippines. And we did some amazing boat tours in El Nido, Palawan, and the water was so blue. And we made these videos. And I think in that 8-week trip to the Philippines, we grew another 60,000 followers. And all of a sudden we had over 100,000 followers. But at that point, no idea how to monetize it. We had 100,000 followers and we hadn't made kind of $1 from it. And it was actually really important to us that we didn't grow the account to do that. We just thought, we love doing this. It's so cool that we can inspire people. And then it was at that point that we launched our first product. So we hadn't worked with any real brands, only hotels. We launched these photography filters, which at the time they're called presets. Anyone who's kind of been in the industry knows there was this preset boom. All of the influencers were sharing how they edited their photos so that the people who were doing travels, they could take these filters, apply them to their own photos, and they could have these really beautiful, colorful edits. And that just really took off. It went crazy for us. We launched it and we made 20,000 euros in the first day. And we are just completely blown away. And then the next day it was the same, and the next day the same. And all of a sudden, Marie and I are just freaking out because we're like, where do we pay tax? Where do we even live? What's going on? And that, I suppose, was the beginning then of us going, okay, this is real. We can make a living out of this, maybe even more than a good living. And we sat down and kind of made a plan on how we would continue growing it, where we would live. We moved to Kuala Lumpur at that time. We set up a company in Hong Kong. And yeah, that was the beginning of it. But to answer your question about how to get to 1.6 million followers, you got to deliver value to a lot of people. And that value, you have to really understand what it is. So it could be inspiration, it could be education, it could be entertainment. Marie and I, over the 10-year period, have built trust with a lot of people because we gave a lot of ourselves, and our real story and our insights and the inspiration of our relationship and how love conquers all. And I think a lot of people were inspired by that journey, and we connected with them on a deeper level. And obviously we are incredibly consistent. We've posted content online every single day for 10 years,
Wow.
Maybe with a few breaks here and there, but that kind of consistency is important. And I've told this to people. When we started, we were like travel influencers, but like travel couple influencers. So it's like a guy and a girl traveling the world, showing people where they can stay, what they can do, build out itineraries. There was probably a handful in 2016, 2017, maybe 20 of us travel couples. And every single one of those that is still doing it today, 10 years later, has achieved a level of success that you wouldn't believe. So it wasn't really what you did. It was that you just stayed in the game that long and iterated and improved and grew and learned. And I think if you've created thousands of pieces of content and pushed it out into the world over that period of time, you're achieving success regardless, some more than others, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I fell down a wormhole yesterday. I was looking at it and I thought, these pictures are so great. I'd like to see how they started. So I started scrolling. And after 10 minutes, I just had to give up because I wasn't really going anywhere. It's like there's so many pictures. But I did see one that was quite interesting. It was kind of a behind the scenes. So when you took a picture of you and Marie snorkeling, and it's a real photo, and then you showed how you enhanced the colors and stuff like that. But it seemed like you had a professional photographer there.
Yeah, in the early days. So when we could see that this thing was taking off, especially myself, I've never been afraid to invest into something or take a chance or take a risk. And when we could see it taking off, we thought the best way for us to get the best content is to have somebody with us, because that's how you get the candid shots. If it's just Marie and I setting up a tripod everywhere we go, everything is completely set up because, of course, you have to set the tripod, you have to walk in front of it, you have to pose. Whereas when we brought in Elliot, our videographer, he was kind of just following us around, and him being with us enabled us to get some of the most incredible shots. Like, for example, in Egypt, in the pyramids and in the temples, he was just following us around, and you can't do photo shoots there. It's they won't let you. But because, we had our Elliot running around with us holding a camera, just quickly sneaking these shots, we've got Marie in a wedding dress in this temple in Egypt spinning and the dust coming up around the dress. And so back then, all we were thinking was, how do we get the next banger? We were calling them the bangers, the shots like the wakeboard going over Marie and I swimming under the water, and you've got half of the shot underwater in the blue and the other half with the wakeboard going across. That was the game. And in between, we were staying at all of these beautiful hotels, and the most beautiful hotels allowed us to get some of the most romantic, inspiring kind of content that a lot of people around the world would think, oh my God, I would love to stay there with my partner. This would be an absolute dream for me. And so the partnerships with the hotels was a crucial part of our growth because we could create content for the hotels and help them increase their bookings and increase their visibility. And we could get great content and have an awesome experience. And so, even though we didn't get paid by any of these hotels for 4 or 5 years, it was just hotel to hotel to hotel, trying to make the best content possible, growing the accounts. Every new country you go to, you're tapping into a new audience of people from that country. And so it was the travel, the constant travel and the staying at all these beautiful hotels that really helped us grow. And it was one moment, though, that took us from roughly 100,000 followers to around 350 is the proposal. I proposed to Marie in Turkey, in Cappadocia, and this post went completely viral. And in 2 weeks, we grew 200,000 followers or something like that.
I guess with hot air balloons in the background or something like that?
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Of course, everybody has seen it now, but when we did it back in 2018, it was still relatively new. And a lot of people thought it was fake. They thought it was like a green screen with all of these hot air balloons.
Yeah, now people would say, oh, is that AI?
Yeah, exactly. They would, yeah. But back then, everyone knew it was real because you didn't have AI. But it's crazy how social media worked. And now it's harder. It's, you have to create so much more these days, and you have to have so much more personality. And it's a wild world, but there's so much opportunity there for people if they want to promote themselves, promote their business. Never has there been more opportunity for people to break out of the mold, of society than there is now.
Yeah. Elliot's got the dream job. He just has to go around, follow you to beautiful location, take a few snaps here or there, and is he happy with that?
He was with us full time for about 18 months.
Wow.
Traveling. We went to must be 30 countries together, and then COVID came, and so we couldn't travel anymore, and so that was the end really of the partnership that we had together. But I always knew with Elliot, when I found him, I saw a video of his. He was 18 years old, and I could just see the talent that he had. And I reached out and I said, hey, my wife and I are in Sri Lanka right now. We're looking for a videographer to travel with us. I don't know what this could lead to. There's no salary involved. I'll just pay for all of your travel and you can just bounce around the world with us. And he just said, let's do it. It was so great while it lasted. We had so much fun. And he's gone on to do incredible things. He's an amazing cinematographer working with Porsche and some of the biggest brands. And so he's living his dream now, which is, making incredible art pieces, really. And so I would recommend anyone check it out. His name's Elliot Grafton.
สวัสดีค่ะ
So hotels. You stayed at these beautiful hotels around the world. Was there a particular point where you thought, I could do this differently?
Certainly. We've stayed at hundreds of hotels around the world, hotels, resorts, boutique hotels. And after you've done that a couple hundred times, you really start to understand what makes a good hotel work. And then more specifically for us, what makes these hotels attractive online, on social media. And we would rock up at a hotel to do a collaboration, and we'd already be scanning the property for where do we need to take the video? Where is the best photo opportunity? And you're looking at light, you're looking at angles, you're looking at colors and textures and how the video can flow through this space. And you're just collecting all this data, and then you create the content, you post it, the audience gives you feedback on, oh, they really love this. Actually, they didn't like that so much. Why is that? And so we could really tell whenever we would arrive at a property, oh yeah, this is good. People are going to love this. And then also on the other hand, this might be beautiful in reality, but it's so hard for us to capture the essence of this property for X number of reasons. It could be the lighting, it could be the color palette that they've used. And when our e-commerce business was really taking off, we thought, hey, we've been in now hospitality and tourism and hotels for 4 years. This is where we have leverage. This is where we know what people want. And so we just sat down with a sketchbook and we started sketching out what would our dream hotel look like and feel like, and taking inspiration from places in Greece and places in the Maldives, and where is the photo shoot going to be? Where is the videos going to be? And then we sat down with an architect, and then eventually we said, let's go, let's build our own property. And in Bali, we set off on that journey, and it was blood, sweat and tears, literally. We learned so many lessons the hard way. And we just kind of step by step started figuring out how this hotel development and hospitality game works. And through persistence, we finished our first project. Because of our social media and our marketing expertise as well, we'd built up this organic engine that would deliver traffic to the property. And within 18 months of opening, we'd made our money back on our first boutique hotel. And that page now, the hotel page, has 200,000 followers on its own, and is just now an automated business that has been incredible asset for us, an incredible investment for us. And, we took that thesis and we did it again. We replicated it with a different property, same thing again. And so, yeah, it really is all of that experience of working with those hotels, understanding kind of good service as well, because, you start to compare all of the hotels together, which offerings are better than others, what is good service, what did we like about that hotel versus that hotel. Mm-hmm. You start to bring that all together, and you can build a really special experience. And because we're boutique, we're thinking about everything from an Instagram perspective. What's going to make this property be seen all over Instagram, all over Pinterest, where people can't not see it? Because once you're at that level, the marketing is just so easy. And the property, if it's built the right way with the right design, will do it for itself. And so, that's how it kind of all started.
You have, is it 5 boutique hotels?
So Marie and I built 2 on our own, and also a spa where we do facials, massages, Pilates. It's also a cafe. And then with our development company, where we bring on our community and other investors, we are currently at 5 properties, either operational or in construction with that business. So in total 7 with a spa. And the development company now is us trying to, at the best we can, bring in our community so that they can invest into these type of assets and help them create financial freedom for themselves. It is a tough investment landscape out there at the moment, especially in Western countries. Real estate's basically unaffordable. Lifestyle and just living expenses has gone through the roof. Taxation, inflation, all of this kind of stuff. And the hotels for us have just been such good investments where, of course, you have a physical asset, you have real estate, but you also have an operating business on top that is producing profits. And then you're able to extract dividends from that. We found a way to be able to build these projects, but also bring in investors fractionally. So, we can sell 1% of a hotel or a resort, and an investor for, let's say, 40,000, 50,000 euros can own 1% of the business, of the land, of everything, and get 1% of the profit. And it just changes the game for people, because usually, let's say in Bali, if you want to build a villa, you're looking at 300,000 euros, and the villa's going to be in a very competitive market. You have to trust the contractors. You don't really know what you're doing. It's really tough. Whereas if you own 1% of a boutique hotel, it's a one-of-one property that offers a very specific experience that has crazy marketing and socials behind it, operated by experienced professionals. 1% of that is much lower risk than going in all on your own property. So yeah, it's been very exciting. We're excited to launch more of these properties and growing, but that's what we do.
Yeah, so it's in Bali and in Camps Bay, Cape Town, where I spent most of the pandemic lockdown. Camps Bay is absolutely stunning and
incredible.
Also quite expensive, I guess. Much more expensive than Bali.
Yeah, it's definitely a level up. And expensive in certain ways and cheap in other ways, like South Africa.
Yeah.
You can have an amazing 3-course meal with incredible produce quite cheap, but then the accommodation's actually quite expensive.
Accommodation's going up. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, but Camps Bay is, in South Africa, there is just one of the most beautiful destinations in the world with Table Mountain and the 12 Apostles behind and the beach in front. It's really incredible.
Yeah. I was in a place where there was a balcony overlooking the ocean. So every night I was there with a glass of sundowner watching the sunset, and it's absolutely stunning. So the company is called Ventura, and as far as I could understand, you work with a remote team of more than 250 people. Is that right?
Yeah, including all of our construction team. Yeah, 250 people across South Africa and Bali at the moment.
What works well when people are collaborating across cultures and countries, and what tends to break down?
There's a lot that I could unpack there. I mean, what works well is taking ideas from all across the world and applying them to areas where maybe those ideas are not, that haven't been realized yet. There's, for example, in Camps Bay or in South Africa, there really isn't that many boutique hotels. There's a lot of big villas, but we haven't seen that many boutique hotels, and there's not even that many of the big chain hotels. And you kind of wonder why, but because of how things have developed there over the years, it's kind of left a bit of a gap in the market. We have an incredible team of people in South Africa who also have, let's say, local knowledge of how the construction works there, how the permitting works there, how everything works there. And so we're all over the place, and working remotely and digitally allows us to hire incredible talent who, let's say, we're able to get them for a much more realistic and reasonable salary package because we offer this remote opportunity to them. All right. So, for example, our head of hospitality, he is coming from a very high up position in a big hotel chain, and he takes half of the salary he would get for them to work with us because he can stay at home and spend more time with his family. And so being remote means that we have like a lot of nomads, a lot of people who like to work remotely, who really appreciate their freedom and being able to manage their own time and are willing to take a much more reasonable salary. So our salary costs for the talent that we have compared to other companies, it's incredible. And that's something that I think working remotely promotes. And if you spend the time to hire the right people and you have multiple filters to filter out the wrong people and get to the right people, you can end up in a team of just incredibly talented, experienced people. And then on the other side of that, working remotely can be extremely challenging, especially when you're delivering physical products. So in quality control and in being able to stay in budget and on time, you need people on the ground who you trust to push these projects through. I'm going to Bali in 3 weeks, and I'm going to be going to all of the projects. I'm going to be sharing my feedback, but I'm really relying on our construction team and our head of construction to share with us the honest truth. And what we've found in the past has been a challenge is that a lot of what we're doing, everyone wants good news. Everyone wants to hear the good news. And so the good news is often shared, but the bad news is not shared as transparently. And then, if that happens for, multiple weeks in a row, then you end up in situations where you have to backtrack, and then you have to fix something, and then the timelines are going over, the budgets are going over. So we try to work with radical transparency, and I think just communication is the toughest part, and especially across cultures. So the people in Indonesia, they work differently. They have different standards. They have different ways of communicating. They avoid conflict a lot. They don't want to be the bearer of bad news. And so I think working across different cultures, the first thing you have to do is really learn how to speak with each other and how to get the message across in a way that everyone understands. But I could go on that topic forever. It's a challenge, but it's also beautiful.
Thank you so much, and give my best to Marie and your family, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you as well.
It was really inspiring.
We'll see you next time.
This episode was hosted by me, Palle Bo. I also produced it with my production company radioguru.co.uk.
No hash.
The theme music is created by Divyas Shea, aka Divi, the audio nomad.
สวัสดีค่ะ
If you found this episode valuable, make sure to follow the podcast and tell a friend.
No hash.
Produced by radioguru.co.uk.